Hello everyone, my name is Dorian and welcome to Spa. We are with the 911 GT3R and I'm just going to show you guys the lap real quick and then we're going to take it corner by corner. I've chosen a sweet spot in terms of track conditions, which is kind of warm, so it won't be, I won't be cheating the track guide, so to speak. And maximum track usage obviously, and tons of fuel. And I tried all types of setups. Everything seems to be pretty similar. Also in the description below there's an Mercedes AMG track guide, so if you're running a front engine layout you might want to check that out as well. Yeah, if you enjoy it, leave a like, and if you want to see more of it, subscribe to the channel. Let's get on the track. Okay, so we're coming up to turn number 1. Let's look for a braking point. It's going to be right at the end of this dirty stuff right here. So if you want to be safe, you can brake right around here. But I would say that's quite early. Realistically, you want to brake here. And I'm going to peak pretty high, so 100% for a millisecond, then starting to release it towards the 80, 90%. Staying on it for a little bit. And when I start seeing this, because you're already looking at the apex at this point, but when you start seeing this part, the dirty stuff, near peripheral vision, that's when you want to start rotating the car and releasing the brakes at the same time. So as you can see, I'm doing that as I really get close to it and releasing the brakes quite hard, just to trail brake the car, and using a lot of wheel input here. First gear, by the way, and trail braking all the way into the curb. You can see I'm not going over the green stuff here. Just stick to the red stuff. The green stuff makes this corner very inconsistent. There's a bump and can over rotate the car on exit or just do weird stuff. So if you avoid it and use the red stuff, you're good. As soon as the car kind of dips down here and it sinks in, and there's a lot of suspension, there's a lot of compression is what I'm trying to say. Basically you can be very aggressive with the throttle. Even though I got so much wheel input, because there's all this compression of rear tires, I can just slam it, do around 70%, open up the wheel, and as I do, back to 100, you can see I got all this road to go over, all the way to the outside, and the red curbs are your friend. So as long as you put wheels on them with the new track limits, you're gonna be fine. So you can use all of this green stuff, just put your right tires on the red, and you're good. All the way to 100% throttle at this point, and taking the car all the way up to 5th gear. We're gonna line it up nicely and use the rubber as, you know, our indication of where we need to place the car. So as you can see, I'm just following it, slowly rotating the car, not using a lot of wheel input. You really want to minimize your wheel input through Radeon or Eau Rouge, whatever you want to call it. Basically, clipping this curb to a point where I got my left tires on the brown stuff here, and you can use the brown stuff in a lot of places, and I'll show you when. Yeah, so straight car at this point. You can see this corner is quite open now, and I'm gonna stay in 5th gear. Now, I've developed a method, you know, it's just something that I figured out, that if you're understeering through this corner, you wanna upshift early into 6th, and if you're oversteering, you wanna upshift late into 6th. So 6th gives you rotation here. So if you keep that in mind, if you're having understeer issues, then upshift early, like right here. That's where I'm doing it. Sometimes if I'm feeling like the car is slidey, you know, it's too loose, I'm gonna upshift around here. So that makes a big difference on the exit. And technically, you wanna stay in 5th until right around here. It maintains the RPM really well, and you're really quick on the straight following that. But you know, you got to make some sort of compromise. If you're gonna understeer here, you know, you're gonna get a penalty, so you don't want that. Upshift early, that makes a world of difference. And you know, in fact, you can even upshift here, but when you do that while rotating the car, it really makes a big impact. So I'm just hugging this curb on the inside. I don't want to really mount it too much because it does kick you out a little bit. You can see I'm just trying to keep as straight a wheel as possible at this point, so nice and straight. The car is just going to slide around. Just go with it. Don't try to correct it. You're going too fast for that. The altitude changes kind of, you know, makes the car float around, especially around this part. So as you go over this curb, you can use a lot more of this curb, by the way. But, you know, that's just the line that the car wanted to take, and I was going with it. And because I didn't use too much of that curb, I was launching out to the outside. Again, I'm not trying to correct it too harshly. I'm just using the red curb to save me from the off track. As long as I got my left wheels on it here, I'm good. Just make sure you turn to the track in a timely fashion. Don't overuse it here because you will get an off track. Hugging this inside line and then letting the car wash out to the outside. Not exactly wash out, just let it naturally go there. And we're setting ourselves up for the next braking point, and it's quite a tricky one because, well, I've found out two things. First of all, there's two lines on entry here. So I'm taking a line. You can see I'm pointing the car diagonally towards the outside curb, which is one option. The other would be to, you know, just follow this white line and hug it and brake in a straight line. Both seem to work pretty well. So I don't think there's much of a time difference between them. Up to you what's more convenient for you. I like opening up this corner a little bit more, and I'll show you where I'm looking, where I'm braking here. So I'm going to start braking right around here. So, you know, quite a bit before the white line. You don't want to wait all the way to the white line here. And I'm going to peak pretty high. So I would say around 90%. Staying on for a little bit. You can see this curb kind of has a, you know, like a downhill section, which really helps you rotate the car. So that's why I'm able to afford going over it without losing too much grip on corner entry. And yeah, I'm starting to release it gradually down into 4th at this point and into 3rd. And as I put it in 3rd, I shift my gaze not to this red and white curb because that's not where you want to be. I shift my gaze to around this brown stuff, right around here. So when you look here, you're going to go here. So that's kind of how racing works. So I'm releasing the brakes dramatically, trying to put the car right here. And as you do that, that really opens up the next corner and the one after that as well. And there's probably around 3/10 by taking this line instead of just hugging this white curb. So you want to keep that in mind. Really try to put the car on the brown stuff here. Really, really useful. You can see I'm accelerating out of it. Just trying to keep the car nice and stable. Not doing anything too abrupt here, really. And I'm taking a long time to reach 100%. So I'm not even reaching 100% at this point. I'm going to rotate the car again. Hugging the brown stuff again. And staying on the left for as long as possible so you're not washing out to the outside. That's the worst thing you can do because that'll ruin everything you've done so far. You can lose so much time on the next right-hander. You can see I'm just squeezing the throttle, being nice and gradual, taking the car sort of to the middle of the road, slightly to the left of it, I would say. And, constantly turning left here to open it up as much as I can. The longer you'll manage to stay flat out here on this little straight, this tiny straight, the more time you'll gain. You'll gain so much time. It's incredible because you'll have more downforce for this corner, so you'll be able to actually carry a good amount of speed here. You can see I'm going all the way to the white line. I don't like this curb at all. I don't like using it. I don't recommend using it. All the way to this white line, and I'm going to start to turn in the car. You can see how early I'm starting to turn in the car. So I got, I'm going pretty harshly diagonally to the outside here. I'm already going to start rotating to the right. And I'm going to lift the throttle as the car straightens out. Around 50%, 40%, just modulating it. Now I'm starting to squeeze it back out nice and gentle. Don't rush it at all. Just carry the speed. Don't try to accelerate through this apex. Only after the apex when you really want to slam it. And I'm trying to clip this curb, maybe a little bit of brown stuff, but not too much. And now as I go over it, I'm back to 100%. Let the car wash out. Keep your right tire where you need it, which is right around here. And you can go over the brown stuff, not a problem. Now, into this corner, really hard braking point because you're going so steeply downhill. And you got the dirty stuff. That's a good indication for you when you need to brake. So right as we reach the end of it, that's pretty late if you want to be safe right around here, I would say. And if you want to save tires also. Braking a little bit to the outside, just using a bit of the curb here on entry. Peaking around 90%, gradually releasing it. And you want to double apex this corner, it seems. I mean, there's two ways. You can hog it the whole way through, and you can double apex it. Actually, you can actually go all the way around it, but that's, I think, much slower. Now, I used to just hug it the whole way through, but I'm starting when I'm trying to find a little bit more pace, I'm starting to realize that double apex in it is how you should go about it. Now, I've seen much more extreme double apexes where you flip this curb, wash out to the middle of the track, and then go back as a late apex. I do it it's a little more gentle. It's kind of a hybrid between hogging it the whole way through and double apex in it. So you'll see that. You can see I'm hogging the white line here. I'm not really going over the curb. Trail braking for a long time, second gear. You don't need first gear. You can just stay on the brakes just a little bit and it'll keep you rotating nicely. Won't have a lot of rolling resistance, so you can carry a little bit more speed. And the car will just naturally wash out here just a little bit, and then I'm gonna bring it back and clip this curb on the exit. So it's not, it's not a very obvious double apex. It's not like I went all the way to the outside here. I was trying to almost hug it the whole way through, but letting the car wash out just a little bit so I don't scrub off too much speed. I'm just, trying to minimize how much wheel input I got in the mid corner, even though at this point it's quite a lot. And I'm starting to accelerate back out again. I'm just squeezing the throttle. I'm in no particular rush. This curb is going to rotate me, and as soon as I have that rotation, I'm going to slam it. I'm going to keep turning right up into third, stay in third gear. And yeah, don't touch the green stuff here. Use the red stuff only. And I'm touching the brakes just a little bit, around 30%. If you didn't really nail the exit from the previous corner, you don't have to brake here. You can just lift. But I feel like, once you get the hang of it, you really want to start just touching the brakes a little bit here. You can touch even a little bit less. I can probably carry more speed into this corner. I can definitely carry more speed into this corner. Yeah, so just trail braking a little bit. The car is pointed in the right direction, so I'm gonna look for a point of return to the throttle, and here it is. Just squeeze and throttle very, very gently. It gives you a ton of stability, so the car has a tendency to kind of over-rotate into this corner because of, the camber changes, the altitude changes, whatnot. So if you go back on the power, especially with the Porsche, the car just stabilizes and just sinks down, sits down on the road. Not a problem. Squeezing the throttle all the way to 100%, nice and gentle. Again, using the red stuff to save me so I don't get an off track here, and abusing the green stuff. Now, yeah, very tricky corner with GT3s. You don't have enough downforce, you can just go for it here, but you have enough that if you take the right line, you can carry an insane amount of speed here. So You're really gonna need to find that sweet spot. And the way I do that is I brake relatively early here. And first of all, I don't touch this curb at all. There's a dip here that if you touch, your half your tire is gonna be in the air. I know some drivers are able to do that, but to find consistency, I have to avoid it altogether. Maybe occasionally I'll be able to do it quicker if I'll go over this curb, but I don't find it too useful, I have to say. Yeah, so I'm gonna brake pretty early here, peaking around almost 90%, yeah, and just releasing it gradually. Now I'm gonna release some more once I put it in fourth gear, and I'm just gonna rotate the car into the curb, not over rotate. So I'm gonna release the trail brake as soon as I feel like the car is starting to slide. In fact, might have carried a bit too much speed here, or maybe turned in a tiny too early, because I was sort of drifting the whole way through, and you'll see it in my wheel inputs. So I'm going into this apex. I'm gonna start to accelerate, which will give me stability at this point. So just squeezing the throttle very, very gently. Then go to the outside using this outside curb, and from this point on, going full throttle does, you know, loosen the car up a little bit, so you can dance a little bit with it. You'll see my wheel input. At this point, I'm just correcting small slides, just correcting it, trying to hold it right on the edge. And you know, it's a lot of fun, but for a race, you probably wanna short shift into fifth, right? I would say right around here. As you start to turn in for the second corner, if you short shift into fifth, it's really gonna help stabilize the car. Maybe lose half a tenth, maybe a tenth, but probably not that even. Probably a few hundredths of a second. So if you short shift into fifth, you're gonna have a much easier time on the second apex. Now straighten the car out as quickly as possible to get a nice straight braking point here. And we got the bridge. We're gonna brake right before it, so right around here. I would say that's pretty late. You can probably brake here and still be okay, especially if you're trying to save tires. In terms of pace, I mean. Yeah, so peaking pretty high. Again, all my braking points here are pretty late, so when you brake earlier, brake less. That's just, you know, a good rule of thumb. Peaking pretty high, using the outside curb on entry, and I'm trying to grab it as a late apex down into third, staying third the whole way through. Trail braking gently. You can see just very, very gently. And now that I find the apex, I'm gonna let it go. Rotate the car some more with the wheel and start going back on the power. Squeezing the throttle, especially towards the 100% mark, so around 80% for a long time before I go back to 100 right here. And you want to hug this right-hander basically as long as you're not turning left, you should be all the way to the right here. So that's the line you want to find to open up this corner and have a good exit. You can see I'm lifting to rotate the car. And now, as I go over this curb, I need throttle to stabilize it. This isn't just for acceleration. This is just to stabilize the car. It's more important than just accelerating throughout. And you want to clip this curb because it does help you open up this corner a little bit. Already at 100%, using the red and white so I don't get an off track. So if you go all the way here, you will get one. And you're through. Staying in third because, you know, what's the point? You're going to be on the limiter for, you know, half a second before you have to brake. Instead of upshifting, having another downshift, another action that you need to do before you start braking, or, you know, before you turn in the car. So minimizing that by staying on the limiter. And I'm going to start braking right around here, I would say. Yeah, right here. So we got the beginning of this white barrier, tire wall. And I'm, again, braking diagonally to the outside, using the outside curb here. Peaking not too high, it seems, not my highest peak at all. So around 80% for a little bit, and then gradually releasing it. Now trail braking into the curb, trying to carry as much speed as I can without missing this apex. It's so important. You can see how early I am on the throttle, and that's going to give me a significant amount of time. Then the car go to the outside again, as long as you got your wheels on the red stuff. I mean, you can get an off track here if you really overdo it, but this much is definitely fine. You can do a bit more than that even. Flat out. And you want to turn in quite early and quite slowly here. I turned in a bit too late and missed the inside curb. And if you miss it, you're going to miss out on some rotation, because if you clip it just a little bit, it's going to rotate the car just a tiny bit. That's really useful. So I turned in a little late, just a tad. I didn't get an off track, didn't wash out too much, but just enough. You can see I'm not really on this curb, and if you're not really on this curb, you can see how much wheel input I got on the exit. So I'm just scrubbing the tires, just murdering these tires. But definitely staying flat out. You're gonna upshift into fourth on the green stuff. So before you start to turn in the car, right here, upshifting into fourth. Just touch the red stuff here and you're fine. You're not gonna understeer and wash out so much. Now on off track, a little bit more would be though. Going to the right here, take a nice short route for, I don't know, 100th of a second. Now hugging this part, 6th gear, and a good indication for you when you want to start, you know, lifting throttle is this dirty part. It's always here. So right as I cross it, I'm gonna start just lifting a little bit to around 50%, and then as I go near the apex here, the curb, the inside curb, I'm gonna squeeze the throttle back out very, very slowly. Don't do anything abrupt. Don't use too much inputs. Just nice and smooth. The car over rotated on exit a little bit, which kind of saved me because I was about to get an off track here and be very annoyed. So the over rotation really helped, and I'm aiming the car towards the tarmac really quickly because you go over it too much. There is an off track here as well. And now for the corner where I found the most amount of time here. It seems like I've cut in the last 5 laps that I did for this track guide. I found half a second here. So it turns out I was always braking too early here, and I wasn't accelerating hard enough out of the corner. So I found that out, and that really helped me. Now, you got the beginning of this dirty stuff. That's your, you know, your last stand. This is the as late as you can brake when you go over it. I would recommend braking here, but you're gonna save fuel on this corner. I mean, you should probably for your endurance race. So if you're lifting, you can brake right around here, right around this point. This is one of the best areas to save fuel on. You can brake very late when you're saving fuel. Obviously, you're not carrying as much speed. You don't have a lot of momentum going. You don't have to slow the car down as much. But yeah, if you're going flat out, full throttle, if you're doing a sprint race or whatever, this is your last stand. This is where you brake. This is as hard as you can brake. 100% hang on it for a long time. You can see just 90%, a little bit, just to help minimize the ABS. It's still working hard, but just minimizing it a little bit because this corner is so slow and you're in first gear. You can burn up the front tires a little bit and you know make a good corner out of it, but for a race I probably wouldn't do that. I'd brake a bit early. Into first gear, late apex. Don't clip it too early because you want a nice straight car and a nice open corner at this point. So you can see I'm going back to the power very, very short period of time. So just slamming the throttle almost, or not slamming, just squeezing the throttle just a little bit. Almost to 100%, around 90%, and then we're going to lift again, maybe touch the brakes just a tiny bit here. And look for another late apex. And now I'm going back to the power quite early, using all of this green stuff, just making sure I got my left tire on the red stuff. And that will give us a 2:18.045. I hope you guys enjoyed this track guide. I hope you guys will have a fantastic 24 hours. And a great week in officials here as well. I'm going to do the officials, probably fixed because that's what I'm about these days. Maybe do a race video about it. Yeah, have a great 24 hours. I've already said that. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.